The laughter came first, sharp, careless, and aimed straight at me. I had just stepped into the rooftop hall when Madeline Brooks tilted her head back and laughed like I was part of the entertainment. Crystal lights shimmered above us, music floated through the air, and the city glowed behind glass walls. Everything about the night screamed success. Everything except how she was looking at me. "Oh, relax," Madeline said loudly, her voice cutting through the chatter. "She's not important. She just works in the back." A few people smiled politely. A few didn't bother hiding their curiosity. I stood still, my heels planted, my hands calm at my sides. Years ago, that sentence would have burned. Tonight, it felt like a match tossed onto gasoline. Her fiancé, Evan Hale, turned toward me. He wasn't laughing. He was studying me, confused, curious, alert. "The back," he asked. "Back of where?" Madeline waved a dismissive hand. "You know, offices, computers, paperwork, nothing exciting." I met Evan's eyes before answering. I didn't rush. I didn't defend myself. "I work behind the scenes," I said evenly. "That part's true." Madeline smirked, satisfied. What she didn't notice was how the circle around us leaned in. People always did when something didn't sound finished. Evan nodded slowly. Behind the scenes of what exactly? There it was. The opening she thought would never come. Before I could respond, Madeline jumped in again. "Babe, it's boring. Let's grab a drink." I smiled. Not at her, at him. "Of this building," I said. The air shifted. Evan blinked. "This building." Madeline let out a short laugh. "Okay, now you're joking." "I'm not," I replied. Someone nearby cleared their throat. Another guest stopped mid-sip. The music felt suddenly louder, like it was trying to fill the gap. Evan glanced around, then back at me. "You mean you work here?" "Yes." Madeline's smile faltered. "As what?" Before I could answer, a man in a navy suit approached us, his posture precise. A staff badge gleamed on his lapel. "Ms. Carter," he said respectfully. Madeline turned. "Who is this?" He didn't look at her. "Miss Carter," he repeated, nodding slightly to me. "We weren't aware you'd be attending tonight. Welcome." Evan's expression changed instantly. Madeline's voice sharpened. "Why are you talking to her like that?" The man remained calm. "Because she oversees internal operations for this property." Silence. Madeline's eyes widened. "No, that's not possible." The man continued, unbothered. "Ms. Lila Carter coordinates vendor contracts, staffing approvals, and compliance audits across 3 locations. This rooftop renovation was signed off by her team." Evan slowly turned toward me. "You approve this place?" he asked. "I did," I said. Madeline laughed again, but it sounded thin. "This is ridiculous. You never told anyone this." I tilted my head. "You never asked." Her mouth opened, then closed. The man handed me a tablet. "If you need anything this evening, just let us know." "Thank you," I said. He left. The group around us didn't move. No one laughed anymore. A few people looked at Madeline. Others looked at Evan. Most looked at me differently now. Evan exhaled. "So, when you said back office, I meant the part that makes sure the lights turn on," I said calmly. "The staff gets paid. The doors stay open." Madeline's face flushed. "You did this on purpose." I finally looked directly at her. "No," I said. "You did." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You always do this. You wait, and then try to embarrass me." I kept my tone steady. "You embarrassed yourself the moment you decided to laugh at me." Evan straightened, pulling his arm slightly away from her. "Maddie, why didn't you tell me your sister ran this place?" "I don't run it," I corrected gently. "I protect it." Madeline scoffed. "This is insane. You think this makes you better than me?" I smiled, small, controlled, unshaken. "No," I said. "It just makes me done pretending I'm less." The music picked up again. Conversations slowly restarted, but the energy had changed. Whispers followed me as I walked away, not loud, respectful. For the first time, I didn't feel small in a room full of people who thought power came from being seen. Mine had always come from being prepared.
And tonight?
This was only the beginning. I didn't go far. Just a few steps to the edge of the rooftop, where the glass railing overlooked the city. From there, I could feel it, the shift. Conversations restarting too carefully. Laughter returning a beat too late. The quiet curiosity trailing me like perfume. Behind me, Madeline was unraveling. "You embarrassed me," she hissed, her heels clicking as she followed. In front of everyone. I didn't turn right away. I watched the lights below, steady and indifferent. "You embarrassed yourself," she scoffed. "You could have told me. You should have told me." I finally faced her. "You never wanted to know." Her jaw tightened. "Don't twist this." "I'm not," I said calmly. "I just stopped letting you do it." She looked past me, checking who was watching. Then her tone softened, syrupy, the way it used to when she wanted something. "Okay," she said.
Fine.
"You have some title. That doesn't mean you get to act superior." I smiled, not unkindly. "I'm not acting." That's when Evan stepped in between us. "Madeline," he said quietly, "why didn't you tell me any of this?" She turned on him instantly. "Because it doesn't matter. She's always exaggerating." "I'm not," I said. Evan held up a hand, eyes still on her. "You said she was just back office. You laughed at her." Madeline's voice rose. "I was joking." "No," he replied, firmer now. "You were dismissive." That word landed hard. Around us, people pretended not to listen while listening to every syllable. Madeline crossed her arms. "So, what, you're impressed now? Because she signs papers?" Evan didn't answer right away. He looked at me, really looked, not with curiosity this time, but with reassessment. "How long have you been doing this?" he asked. 3 years, I said. Quietly. His brows lifted. "That long?" "Yes." Madeline laughed again, sharp and defensive.
"See?
She hides things. That's what she does." I shook my head. I hide from people who only see value when it benefits them. Evan exhaled slowly. "Madeline, do you realize how this sounds?" She snapped. "You're taking her side?" "I'm taking reality's side," he said. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about tonight. It was about every story Madeline had told. Every version of herself she'd polished while sanding me down to make herself shine brighter. I reached into my clutch and pulled out my phone, not dramatically, just enough. "I didn't come here to fight," I said. "But since we're being honest." Madeline stiffened. "What are you doing?" I turned the screen toward Evan. An email chain.
Clean.
Professional. Subject line: Vendor termination review. Brooks Consulting. Evan's eyes narrowed. "Brooks Consulting?" "Yes," I said. "The firm Madeline's been bragging about all night." Madeline stepped forward. "Stop. You don't get to." I kept my voice level. "Your company's contract is under review. Multiple compliance issues. Late filings. Inflated invoices." Evan looked between us. "Is that true?" Madeline's mouth opened. Closed. I continued, not cruel, just factual. "The board meets Monday. I'm presenting the findings." The silence that followed was heavy. "You're doing this to punish me," Madeline snapped. "No," I said. "I'm doing my job." Evan took a step back from her. "Not far, but enough." "You told me your business was solid," he said. "That you earned everything." "I did," she insisted. "She's lying." I met Evan's eyes. "You're welcome to verify everything. Nothing I've said is private. Or personal." Madeline's voice cracked. "You're ruining my night." I tilted my head. "You tried to ruin my name." A long pause. Evan finally spoke. "I need some air." He turned and walked away, leaving Madeline staring after him, stunned. She looked back at me, eyes blazing. "You think you won?" I shook my head gently.
No.
"I think I finally stopped losing." I turned away, blending back into the crowd. Not smaller, not louder. Just clear. And for the first time, Madeline had nothing to laugh about. The night didn't end when Evan walked away. If anything, that's when it truly began. I could feel Madeline watching me as I moved through the crowd, her presence sharp, restless, like a storm that hadn't decided where to break. People who'd barely noticed me earlier were suddenly finding reasons to stand closer, to say my name a little more carefully. Ms. Carter, lovely event tonight. Lila, isn't it? I've heard good things about your work. I accepted the greetings politely, never lingering too long. This wasn't a victory lap. It was exposure, and exposure always made people uncomfortable. Near the bar, I spotted Evan standing alone, hands braced on the counter, his reflection staring back at him in the mirrored wall. He looked like a man replaying conversations he'd once laughed through. I didn't plan to approach him, but he turned, saw me, and nodded. "Can we talk?" he asked. I hesitated, then agreed. We stepped a few feet away, far enough to avoid eavesdroppers but close enough to stay visible. "I'm not here to convince you of anything," I said before he could speak. He shook his head. "I know. I need to understand." "Understand what?" "How I miss this," he said quietly. "Not just what you do, but how she treats you." I folded my arms loosely. People see what they're shown. He exhaled. "She told me you were bitter, that you always wanted attention." I smiled faintly. "Did I seem that way tonight?" "No," he admitted. "You seemed grounded." Before he could say more, Madeline appeared again, her composure cracked but not shattered. "There you are," she said sharply to Evan. "Are you seriously talking to her?" Evan turned. "Yes." Her eyes flicked to me. "I should have known you'd try to poison him against me." I kept my voice even. "You did that yourself." Madeline laughed, loud and forced. "You think anyone here cares about your little job? You're still the quiet sister. You always will be." That's when Mr. Holden, one of the senior investors, stepped forward. He'd been standing nearby, listening. "Actually," he said calmly, "she's the reason I invested in this property." Madeline froze. Mr. Holden nodded toward me. "Ms. Carter identified the operational risks everyone else missed. Saved us millions." Evan looked at me, stunned. "You never mentioned that." "I don't usually," I replied. Madeline's voice trembled. "This is a setup. You all planned this." "No," Mr. Holden said. "You just spoke before listening." A few guests murmured agreement. Someone cleared their throat. Someone else looked away, suddenly very interested in their drink. Madeline's mask slipped. "You think this makes you better than me?" she snapped at me. "You think you won because a few people nodded at you?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "I don't need to be better than you. I just needed to stop letting you define me." Her eyes glistened, not with tears, but with fury. "You always ruin things." I shook my head.
No.
"I survived them." Evan spoke again, voice steady but firm. "Madeline, we need to talk. Alone." She spun on him. "You're choosing her." "I'm choosing honesty," he said. "Something we clearly need." The words hit her harder than any accusation. She laughed once more, but it sounded hollow.
Fine. Talk.
"But don't expect me to apologize for being ambitious." I met her gaze. "Ambition isn't the problem. Mocking people is." She opened her mouth to retort, then stopped. For the first time, she had no clever line ready. Evan gestured toward the elevator. "Let's go." She hesitated, just a second too long, then followed him, her shoulders stiff, her smile gone. As they disappeared, the rooftop exhaled. Conversations resumed, softer now. A few people approached me again, not to congratulate, but to acknowledge. "You handled that well," someone said. I nodded, accepting the words without letting them weigh me down. I walked back to the railing, the city stretching endlessly below. For years, I'd been told to stay quiet, to be grateful, to accept whatever version of myself others found convenient. Tonight, I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't insulted anyone. I'd simply told the truth. And the truth had done the work for me. I checked my phone. A message blinked onto the screen, short, direct. "Board moved the vote up. Monday confirmed. Good work tonight." I slipped the phone back into my clutch and smiled, not because I'd won, but because I'd finally stepped into my own space without apology. Behind me, laughter rose again. Glasses clinked. Life continued. But something fundamental had shifted. For the first time, my name carried weight in a room where I'd once been invisible. And no one would ever call me just back office again. By the time the party wound down, the rooftop felt like a different place. The same lights, the same music, the same skyline, but the energy had softened, steadied. People said their goodbyes with quieter voices, more thoughtful expressions. I stayed near the edge, not because I wanted distance, but because I finally had room to breathe. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't work. "Evan, can we talk before you leave?" I considered it for a moment, then replied, "5 minutes." He found me near the elevator, his jacket folded over his arm, his confidence replaced by something more human. "She left," he said. "Madeline." I nodded. I figured. She needed space. So did I. We stood there in silence for a few seconds, not awkward, just honest. "I owe you an apology," he said. "Not for tonight. For believing stories instead of paying attention." I studied his face, searching for excuses. Finding none. "Thank you," I said. "That's enough." He smiled faintly. "You don't hate me." "No," I replied. "I don't carry other people's mistakes." He exhaled, relief evident. "I don't know what happens next. But I know this engagement, it isn't moving forward." I didn't react. I didn't need to. "That's your decision," I said gently. He nodded. "Still, I wanted you to hear it from me." We shook hands, no drama, no lingering. Two adults closing a chapter cleanly. As he walked away, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind that settles after a storm finally passes. I took the elevator down alone, my heels echoing softly. In the lobby, a young employee rushed over. "Miss Carter," she said, nervous but smiling. "The team wanted to thank you for always having our backs." I smiled back. That's the job. Outside, the night air was cool. A car pulled up, simple, black, unmarked. I slid into the back seat and gave the driver my address. As the city lights passed by, my phone buzzed one last time. "Madeline, you think this is over?" I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. "It was over the moment you stopped seeing me." I put the phone face down. Monday came faster than expected. The board meeting was efficient. Clean. Professional. The vote passed unanimously. Brooks Consulting's contract was terminated. A new firm was approved, one built on transparency, not shortcuts. When the meeting ended, my mentor pulled me aside. "You did well," he said. "There's talk of expanding your role." I nodded. "I'm ready." Later that evening, I walked into my apartment, kicked off my heels, and poured a glass of water. No champagne. No celebration posts. Just stillness. I looked at my reflection in the window. Calm, centered, unshaken. For years, I'd been told to stay behind the scenes. To let louder voices speak for me. To accept being underestimated as a permanent role. But I'd learned something important. Power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it waits. And when it finally speaks, everyone listens. I turned off the lights, the city glowing softly beyond the glass. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new meetings, new decisions. But tonight I slept easy. Not because I'd proven anyone wrong, but because I'd finally proven myself right.